Have you ever felt desperate? Yeah, some people have, some people haven't. Some people have felt more desperation than others. Canaanite woman who came to Jesus today, she was desperate. She came up to Jesus shouting, causing a disturbance. The disciples, and Peter particularly, can't you stop her, get this woman away. And Jesus, sort of, after his confrontation with the Pharisees, is a bit sort of, I only came here to help the people of Israel, the Jewish people. I haven't got time for all of this. But she's so persistent that he listens to her and then heals her daughter. She was totally desperate. I was watching the television a few days ago, and I saw some of these people who've come across the channel in boats. And we all get a bit, don't we? These people coming here, they've got no right to come here. They're coming in boats and they're causing a lot of problems and everything, and it's all them criminals that are doing it, But these people who are coming over are desperate. They come here out of desperation. They're willing to risk their lives. They know that a fair proportion of people who cross on those small boats are going to die. Yet they're prepared to do it. They are desperate. I don't know what the answer is to immigration of this sort. I don't know. Politicians need to sort it out. Problem is, we don't seem to be getting the right sort of politicians nowadays. We seem to be getting politicians who seem to be what I call popularists. They want to wrap themselves in flags, that sort of thing, and pretend that, I'm doing it all for the nation, all that sort of thing. That's not what it's about. Politicians are there to help all people. Desperation is a thing that most of us only partially understand. When we've been really poorly, perhaps, we understand what desperation is. I always remember years ago there used to be a series on a television called The Boys from the Black Stuff. Can you remember that? I mean, some of you older ones like me will remember. It's a very good drama series about some chaps in Liverpool. They were the guys who laid the tarmac, and it was a very precarious living. They were in and out of work all the time and everything. And one of the main characters was Yossa, You remember, I think he called him Yossa Hughes, I think. And I can't remember the actor who played him, but he was fantastic. And Yossa was desperate for work. He'd tell, he'd go up to and he'd see somebody doing some building work. He'd say, I could do that. And they gave him a job laying bricks, and he made a total mess of it. And I remember one day he walked into church, Roman Catholic Church in Liverpool, and there was a confessional box there. And he goes in and sits in a confessional box. And he sits there, and the priest sits there, and a little grill, in the confessional. And the priest says, "What can I do for you?" "My name's Dan." And Yossa says, "I'm desperate, Dan," which broke the sort of whole thing and made it funny in a way. But it wasn't funny because he was desperate. All of us maybe get a little bit desperate at times, but Jesus will help us. He does come to us in our desperation. He does help us when we call out to him. And sometimes it is necessary to almost shout to Jesus. I remember in my early ministry having to go and see a young lady who'd lost her baby. And she wasn't a Christian. Well, she'd never been to church or anything like that. But I had to go to see her and sort out the service for her child. And all she could do was cry. That was all she could do, was cry in desperation. When we see the terrible things that happen sometimes in the Middle East, and we see people there showing their emotions that when they're bereaved, they cry and shout and wail. In this country, we keep a stiff upper lip, don't we? And we pretend that we can get through. But inside, we're bursting. We're bursting with desperation. Jesus does come to us in our desperation. He has no time for all this sort of stuff that the Pharisees were interested in, keeping just to the rules and making everything nice. That was not his thing at all. A great friend of mine, who was a mentor to me in my early years, became a prison chaplain, and he did about 20 years in prison work after curacies and a bit of time in a parish. And he decided to go back into parish ministry, and where he was terribly posh, terribly nice, really was. And I must admit, I went to visit him, he got the best vicarage I have ever seen in my life. It was to die for, you might say. And it was on the side of a hill, looking over the hills and everything. Oh, it was incredible. And then suddenly he gave it all up and went back to prison ministry. And I sort of asked him, I said, well, what was that all about? Why did you leave that? You're marvellous, And he said, oh, it seemed nice, he said, but it was too nice. The people were not living in the real world. They were not understanding the real issues of the world. And that's what we've got to try and do. The people who are coming over in little boats and things, they're not coming over here to attack us. They're not coming over here to try to rob us, that sort of thing. They're coming over here in desperation. And we have to understand that. Other issues in the world as well, we have to try to understand. Pray to God about. Pray for understanding. Pray that Jesus will come and help us through his grace. That is what Jesus does. He comes to us, gives us grace so that we can then help the world. Amen.